So just to give a little bit of background on Precisely, since the launch of the Precisely brand about 18 months ago, our team has spent hundreds of hours interviewing and surveying Precisely customers, our business and technology partners, and industry analysts. We wanted to understand the struggles that today's businesses face in trusting their data, and we wanted to learn how business and IT dynamics are shifting and where organizations anticipate their next data challenges will be. What we heard from the customers we interviewed is that 100% of organizations struggle to consistently trust their data for decision making. They shared that you wrestle with issues of data quality, timeliness, and governance, and they said that context is becoming more and more critical, yet it's extremely difficult to achieve. In fact, we heard from one customer that their ability to trust data is often more dependent on knowing who the data came from than on truly understanding the data itself. Through these customer conversations, it became clear that data integrity built on accuracy, consistency, and the all-important aspect of context is an imperative for business in all industries. And that's why Precisely has introduced the Data Integrity Suite. It delivers the essential elements of data integrity, accuracy, consistency, and context to give your business the confidence to make better, faster decisions based on trusted data. Built on proven data integration, data quality, location intelligence, and data enrichment capabilities trusted by more than 12,000 global organizations, the Precisely Data Integrity Suite delivers unmatched value for any data integrity initiative. And with a modular architecture, you can pick just the capabilities you need, implement them alongside your current infrastructure, and add on new capabilities as your needs grow. So to that point, what I wanted to focus on today is the areas of data governance and data quality. So when we look at our positioning in the governance and quality space, we find that our solution is unique in its market placement, recognized for its strength in delivering value as a data governance, data catalog, and data quality solution. That strength is due to native integration across platforms, connecting data assets with key processes, analytics, and objectives. This allows all users to collaborate on important business use cases from top down, bottom up, and middle out. So let's take a deeper look at those three use cases. So when we think of our approach as a top down, bottom up, middle out, what we're referring to is connecting business objectives at the top to the data that supports them at the bottom and the processes that run the business in the middle. This is based on proven practical experience with hundreds of customers across all industries. We do see that customers require all of these capabilities to deliver meaningful results as quickly as possible. So from a top-down perspective, this is where traditional data governance tools live, driven by business goals, KPIs, regulatory and compliance drivers. From a bottom-up perspective, this is the domain of data catalogs and technical metadata management tools and addresses the technical users of a solution. When we look at middle out, this is where data quality and data management tools excel. This part is often overlooked by governance and catalog tools. So if we have a look at an example of an impact diagram, you can see all the three use cases that I just mentioned. So starting from the business term of contact email address in the middle, you can see the defined goals from the top down above the business term. The related data is found at the bottom, which shows you the technical insights as to where the data is used or coming from to address the bottom-up method. In the middle, you'll see that the processes are assigned to the business term, as well as data quality checks and metrics. So we're able to cover the middle out part. And you can see all of this in a single diagram. And of course, you get more details and information as you can drill down and jump to areas as needed. And we'll see this a little bit more when I move to the live demonstration. So as I've already mentioned, customers require all of these capabilities to deliver meaningful results as quickly as possible. This also means having data that's easy to understand and find. So having the ability to simply inventory data assets, create a business language for data, intuitively understand data usage and impacts, and keep pace with the ever-changing data footprint within the organization. It also requires data that is trustworthy. So having the ability to understand critical data assets, trust and verify the health of critical data assets, and align them to core processes and workflows. You also need data that connects to meaningful outcomes. So having the ability to connect data assets to desired business outcomes and objects, regardless of stakeholder, division, region, or initiative. We call this business-ready data, making data easy to understand, making data trustworthy, and connecting data to meaningful business outcomes. Today, I'll be demonstrating to you a governance solution which includes data catalog, business glossary, policy management, metrics and scoring, workflow, and dashboarding. Many of our customers are thinking about data quality and governance together and precisely have a strong offering in the data quality space. So looking at the transactional data quality in addition to the metadata. With our data quality offering, we do many of the things you would expect, like completeness, conformance, and validity checks. What makes us unique in the quality space is that we take that further to gauge integrity and accuracy as data flows system to system and to the point of consumption. And we can do that in batch or real-time controls. We also offer self-service data prep and analytical capabilities designed for business users to be able to connect, clean, blend, and analyze data. We do package a version of this with our govern solution for metadata harvesting, and you'll see a little of that today. The breadth of our solution and our track record of data governance and data quality solutions is tough to match, both in the delivery of software and services methodology based on real-world expertise and customer proof points to back it up. Within the financial services sector, technology is increasingly being used to enhance regulatory process. However, having that ability to perform quality type operations doesn't have the impact required if this isn't supported by data governance. Governance and quality share a symbiotic relationship. This enables the establishment and monitoring of adherence to policies, both regulatory and non-regulatory. Governance can be used to define business and technical assets and to define the rules to apply to monitor the completeness, conformance, and validity of those assets. Quality can be used to execute on the defined rules and surface those back to dashboards to show the quality of data elements over time, allowing tracking of KPIs against key metrics as defined by the business. But enough with the slideware. I think it's time to jump into a demonstration. Okay, so I can jump out of the PowerPoint there and launch my browser. So I've launched the tool now, which is the Data 360 platform. And for this demonstration, I'll be using the tool from the perspective of a data consumer. So you can see here that I've launched the user interface. I've navigated to it in my Google Chrome browser via a URL. So it's all thin client based with no downloads required. So having a look at the user interface, I've got my user menus down on the left-hand side with my navigation menu. I can look at things such as my business assets, my goals and objectives. I've got a data catalog with my business and technical assets. And I can also look at my data quality rules as well. Now the folders that we see here on the left-hand side can be renamed. We can add others to the menu system. And we can also restrict access based on a specific user or a user role. I've also got some quick menu items that I can see in the main panel. I can add others, and these allow me to quickly jump to specific areas within the platform, but I can also use them to link out to third-party tools as well. Up at the top here, we have the all-important search bar, which lets me search through the platform for a set of results based on what I've entered. So as a consumer, the first thing I'm going to do is enter a search term. So I've entered my search term, and what you'll see when the results come back is that down on the right-hand side, I get some categories. So I got some hits on different categories of information within the results. So I can see I've got some business assets here, I've got some technical assets, some diagrams, models, reference to some policies. I can use this to filter out information from the result set. So for example, I'm interested only in business assets. And I can see in the center there all of my results, which give me a quick view of what each of the assets is. So I can select which one I'm interested in and go and have a look at it in more detail. So once I identify that asset I'm interested in, I can select it and go to the definition. So what you'll see here is I have a bunch of information that's provided to me about this asset. So we've got the name, we've got a description we can populate about the asset. Is it a critical data element? Yes or no. Is it PII? Yes or no. And we can also allow users to add their own tags, which can be useful for when you're searching, and we can assign tags as well. So when we look at producing our own harvested tags, what we have is the ability to harvest data from source repositories. And when we do that, we can perform semantic analysis to identify asset types as well. We've got a data quality score here of 87, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. We can also see what industry the asset applies to or associated to. And we can also see whether the asset is certified. So all of the information that we see here is based on a meta model that we've defined for what information we want to record against business assets. Now this meta model definition is completely configurable. So you can define any name here for what you want to collect, and you can change it later by adding more elements that you want to collect as you grow in your journey of data governance. So apart from the definition, we also have the concept of relationships within the platform. So I want to relate assets together, so I can create a relationship with my asset here to see what are the related goals and objectives in my organization. So I can see here there is a business level goal to increase the sales pipeline. What are the related policies? So what policies relate to this? I can see there's a GDPR policy there, and I can hover over that and see some more detailed information. I can also see there's a consent policy there as well. What are the related data quality rules if we scroll down? So I can display those here as well. So I can see the data quality checks that are being executed that relate to this asset that I'm looking at. So then I can go further down to look at the technical assets across my data catalog that are related to this business asset. So I can see I have some email addresses in Salesforce, some more coming from databases and from an SAP system as well. So just showing all those relationships between the technical assets and the business asset as well. If I wanted to, I can hover over these and I can go to the asset as well. So looking at this C email address, if I hover over that, I can see it's a Snowflake asset. And if I select it, I can see the details here of the harvester. Over on the right, I can also see some profiling information that I've been able to capture here. So looking at the total row count within the table, the sample size that we took, some base information around the base data type, the semantic analysis and data type result being email, and the confidence in that result. I can also see some sample quality information. So we got 96% valid, 0 invalid or outliers, and 400 plus, or about 3.5% null. And I can also see a sample distribution across here. So obviously the bigger number there is the null values, and then there's some distinct values that I can look at just for sampling. Some high level statistics there around null count, blank count, min and max value, min and max length, any multi-line attributes there, leading and trailing white space, and also looking at a validation regular expression that can be used for that. So then going back to my business asset, the next thing I want to focus on is these scores here in the top right. So for the consumer, we highlight the data governance score and the data quality score. So let's go across to the scoring information here, and we'll get a better look at our scores with governance and quality. I want to start with my data quality score, so we'll just go into that. So we have what we have is some data quality checks running, which provide some results, and we roll those up along with some weighting where they can be combined to have an overall quality score. Because you could have multiple quality checks being executed against a single element, and you'd want to be able to roll those up to an overall result. So if we have a look here, we're performing a completeness check and a consistency check. The completeness check, we're giving a 55% weighting and the consistency check a 44%. So we can then take the actual scores that we get from each of those quality checks, apply the weighting, and come out with a total score at the end of 87. So we also get a view over here on the right-hand side of how the quality score is trending over time. So what we want to see is whether or not it's trending up or trending down. And if I wanted to, I could actually go deeper into the quality definition where I could get a view of exactly how the calculation is being performed as well. So moving across to the governance score. So this allows you to add a measure on the governance data. So what we want to be doing is checking that there's a business owner assigned, that we have a data steward. Does the data asset have a description? And is the status of the asset set to certified? And these are just examples. So any measures can be defined and applied. And you'll see, similar to the quality scoring, we can apply weighting to those measures as well. So a lot of our customers use this to help data consumers understand the maturity of the data they're going to be looking at or working with, giving them some trust, not just from a DQ perspective, but also from a governance perspective. So what I want to do now is touch on diagrams. I showed one earlier in the presentation, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at 3 different diagram types: lineage, impact, and then finally process diagrams. So I want to start with a lineage diagram. So here you'll get an idea of how your different technical assets are flowing through the different systems and applications. So let's have a look at the details of an asset. I'll just maximize my view here so I can see a bit more. Okay, so when we open up the details pane there, we can see a couple of things here. We see the email address. This is a table column. We get some score information there, then some general details around the name of the column, the owner or the parent to the column being the email address, a description, some data classification information, and we can go down here and have a look at some more detailed properties around the catalog, schema, and source that the asset exists within, even all the way down to the harvester properties, which shows us the full path to the database schema, table, and column name that we're harvesting there. We can also see the asset source or the database instance that we've been able to extract that information from. So what I can do is I can have it, using this process, I can have a look at who's feeding this asset and where it ends up, for example, within a view. So we can have a look at, the details of the view there. And we can see some additional information now about the view itself, around its name and parent, the columns that exist within the view, and all the additional information around how the view was created, and again, the harvester properties that we see there. So we get asked quite often about how to create these lineage diagrams, and whether or not it's a manual process or something that's done automatically. So the answer is it's automatic. So we have a harvester framework with connectors that are able to connect to different systems. They then go through and extract lineage, extract metadata and relationships, and then build these diagrams automatically. You can insert manual linkages in here as well, but primarily it's done through automatic harvesting operations. What I can also do here when I'm viewing this, because it can get quite busy, is I can actually apply filters. So I may not be interested in certain elements within this lineage. So for example, I might not be interested in seeing Salesforce asset types. So I can just hide those within the view. If this is a view that I am commonly using in terms of a filter, I can also add that. So that then just allows me to make it available through a drop down here, so that every time I come back into the lineage diagram, I can quickly reapply those filters from a pre-saved setting without having to go and re-select the different elements that I want to hide. So that's a lineage diagram. Now we might move across to impact analysis. So impact analysis is where I can start looking at what are the impacts to making different changes to the data. So this gives me a view of all of the relationships that an asset has within an organization. and being able to understand what process that asset is related to. So I can see there, for example, the relationships to regulatory policy, where that asset is involved, as we saw in the earlier screen when we were looking at contact email address. I can also see those processes that I mentioned. And if I want to, I can actually navigate and I can see that my processes actually execute 3 more assets here. And I can expand that execute relationship and actually see what those assets are, more within the UI. So that impact in terms of if I was to make a change to this asset, what are the impacts of that change can be visualized in here. Again, this is built out of the relationships that already exist within the system. So I don't need to go and build this diagram myself. It gets produced for me. The third and final diagram is around our processes. So I can see I have these processes here and I want to have a look at my customer acquisition process. So I'm just going to open that up in a new tab and have a look at my process. So this opens the process for me in a diagram so that I can see the actual steps that are undertaken as a part of that process. So I can see that there are 2 steps here undertaken by the product team and the marketing team. And as I step through the process, there are various stages that are undertaken where we get to a point where we need to ask the question, have we reached our MQL threshold? And that's a yes or no answer. And depending on the result we get out of here, we then follow through this process end to end, and we see the different teams that are involved in each of the different steps in this process as we reach to a final conclusion across the length of the process. So what this does is it allows you to map out your entire business process. And the way it takes it a step further is it starts to tie assets to each step in the process. So you can see here I have 11 assets. I can expand that. And if I have a look at those assets when I load, I can see there are actually 9 business terms that are attached to this step. I can also see there is a data quality check that's undertaken, and also the data from within this step is also used in a report as well. So I can see all those assets across my catalog that relate to those steps as well. So to close out the demonstration, I just wanted to bring up one final slide and just talk about some of the features we showed today. So one thing we like to pride ourselves on is a business first use and design. So we want a solution that is able to speak in terms the business knows and understands. And this is a tool that the business can adopt and use from the glossary down to business lineage. And it was designed with business users in mind and can be leveraged by non-technical people and be really valuable for them. They can also associate data assets with business goals, objectives, and metrics to measure the completion of data governance activities. We've got an embedded data quality and data analysis capability, which many companies consider to be a key part of data governance. So we can bring in results from other tools, but can also leverage our own data quality tool with advanced capabilities. Data analysis can be leveraged to calculate governance scores, and if analysis needs to be performed on governance data, data preparation and analytical capabilities can also be leveraged. With the solution, we provide an easily configured and flexible meta model, dashboards and workflow. We allow the user to configure whatever business and technical assets they want to include and any associated attributes. And this is all done in a user-friendly interface that allows non-technical users to design and build the structure that meets the needs of their company. Ability to harvest metadata from external systems is quite key, and it's a native part of the platform. So a lot of data governance tools will use third-party product to harvest metadata. We try to build as many connectors ourselves as we can, so our platform can harvest the metadata as a native part of the platform. And we even go further by applying some machine learning technologies to assist with data categorization. Thanks very much for your time.